So today's video is all about propagating basil, thyme and rosemary, and I'm going to show you exactly how I do it and what the results has been at my homestead with doing this kind of method. So first of all, this pot has some basil in it, and believe it or not, this basil is actually from basil cuttings that I propagated and stuck it in this pot with my banana plant, and you can see it has given me flowers. It's got some seeds, and the basil plant definitely needs another trim back. So I have trimmed this a few times so I can make it a little bit more bushy, and it has definitely grown to a point where it actually needs another trim. But exactly how do you propagate to get some more basil? Well, firstly, you can see that the basil is a little bit woody at the bottom, and that you do not want. You want to look for a healthy stem that is still soft and that it hasn't really flowered. And then what you're going to do, just try and find one here, and this is actually a perfect one over here. And then what I want to do is take probably, let's see, this much of the leaves off. Trying to do this with one hand. And also I'm going to take that top off. I do not want this to give me seeds or flower. And if I just stick this in some water and come back to it, you'll see that beautiful roots will develop on the bottom there. And I'll just take some of these leaves off. I can use it on a sandwich or dry it out to make spiced basil, dried basil. So I can take these leaves and make some dried basil or use them fresh in something. But there's two options you can do. You can either stick this in a glass of water, and I would say about 3 to 5 days you should see some roots developing. Or option 2, you can dip this in growth hormone and stick it straight into the soil, give it a good water, and that should also do the trick. But I honestly like the method number 1, where you actually put this in some water. You can watch it root, make sure these roots are beautiful, healthy, and when you feel it's time to actually stick this in the ground, you are able to. And I've actually stuck this around my whole garden. I'll go through to the herb box and just show you. All of this comes from one plant that I propagated a few cuttings, and I'm going to do the same with this batch. So over here I've prepped 3 basil cuttings. Over here I've gone and prepped 3 basil cuttings, and you can see I've gone and cleansed it nicely, and I'm going to go and stick this in some water and come back to it to see how they have done. So this box is supposed to be my herb box, and unfortunately I didn't take out this pepper dew plant because I wasn't sure what it was and what pepper it was. If I knew it was a pepper dew, I would have taken it out, because you can see how wild this plant actually grows, and this is actually just one plant. But in between I do have some herbs that I have propagated, and we are going to actually propagate some more off of these. And we've just done the basil plant. You can see over here, this basil is actually one of my propagations that I did, and it's doing very well. All I have to do is give this a clean up, but it has given me more seeds which I will save, and I will just throw it in this raised bed. What I also propagated in this bed was some oregano, which is very easy to also propagate. And what I did is that I just cut a piece like this. Try not get a woody piece, but more a softer piece. And then I just stick that in some water and it will also root. So I've been very successful going down that path. And you can see I got some more oregano there, which I also propagated. I got some creeping oregano on this side. And then I got some thyme. So that will be the next herb we are going to propagate now. So what you want to do, you just need to get in there. There's some beautiful thyme over there. And we're going to try and look for a piece that is not woody. So you want a soft piece, and you're going to just cut off a little piece, and that is what we're going to work on. So you can see these are the 4 thyme that I have gone and cut off, and you can see it's not a hard woody piece, it's a soft piece. Just going to take that off, and I'm going to stick that in water as well. Another method is option number 2, is stick this in some growth hormone and put it in some soil, water it very well, and that method will also work. But I just found that if I do it this way, I can actually see the roots grow, and to me that is a little bit better than sticking it in some soil. So you'll see that these are my thyme that I've gone and cut down. I'm going to propagate them, and we'll come back to it in a couple of days to see if anything is happening on these cuttings. Okay, we're over here by my rosemary, and I think out of all of my herbs, I am mostly impressed with the rosemary. I think it's this rosemary that is my main rosemary. We actually bought this at a nursery, and I had to trim it. I just took it, and you can see that I've already cut it over here, and I propagated the old piece that was on the top. This is now woody, and this is the fresh piece that has grown. And I took quite a few cuttings, put them in water, rooted them, and they did amazing. So I just stuck them back in here, and you can see that I have, out of this plant, 1, 2 new rosemary bushes. This one is from a different variety. You can see how different it is compared to these ones. And what we're looking for is, if you look closely, this is a bit woody. You want to cut it about there, clean the bottoms, and then this piece will be what we are propagating. So you can see there's quite a few new shoots that has grown from my previous cut, and we're just going to trim this back down. So here's a nice example, and you can see that brown piece is the woody piece. Where it starts going white is the new piece. I'm going to cut it literally there. That is my piece I'm working with, and I will clean it from where my thumb is downwards. So there's 2 options. Once again, you can put this in water, which we are going to do, and watch them root. Once I see that the roots are really healthy and strong enough, I'm going to then put this in a pot or even in my raised bed. I would suggest that when you do rosemary, that you stick it in pots, because rosemary is one of these herbs that can overtake. They do grow very, very big and they can take over. So if you've got the space in your garden, just make sure that you keep it maintained, you prune it, and when you prune it, it is going to bush a little bit more. There's another piece there. And then every time you do cut new plants, so this is my third cutting, make sure that you spray your shears with alcohol, because you don't want to transfer any of the diseases onto a plant. Okay, so that's my 4 cuttings. I'm going to quickly clean them up and show you how it looks. Okay, here is my 4 cuttings, and you can see I've cleaned them up and the bottoms aren't woody. And this I'm going to stick in some water. Remember, option 2 is stick them in some growth hormone, put them in a pot and water it very well, and it should survive. I think that I've actually put one of these cuttings somewhere around the homestead and it grew, so they're very easy to propagate. And we'll come back to these guys in a few days time. Okay, you can see that I have got 2 small little shooter glasses there. What I'm going to do is that I'm just going to stick the rosemary and the thyme all in one jar. Just make sure that you submerge it nicely. And then in the other one, I'm going to put all the basil. So these guys will just sit on the windowsill. Just make sure that you change the water every second day. And if it's really hot in your area and the water does evaporate faster, just top it up. And we will come back to this in the next, say, 2 to 4 days. And we should see some start of roots developing on these guys. I'll show you over here. I started these cuttings probably 2-3 weeks ago, and you'll be able to see the beautiful roots that have started developing on these rosemary. It has been a couple of days since we took some cuttings from the basil, the rosemary and the thyme, and today we're just going to quickly do a follow-up of how well these guys have rooted up. You do see at the bottom there a small little white knob that wants to root, and so the basil is taking the longest. There is a little root at the bottom of this basil, and there's a little root there. So the basil is taking a little bit longer, but in spring and early summer they should go a little bit faster. I've never had a problem with it. And then over here we've got our thyme. This one has not rooted, but if I look at all the other thymes here, I can see that they have all rooted, all 3 of them. Some beautiful roots there, but we'll just keep it in for a couple of more days in order for it to root well until I put it in pots. If I look at the rosemary, you can see the rosemary, they have all rooted. That I did these rosemaries about a month ago, and look at these roots. So these guys are now ready to actually be put in pots, and that's what we're going to do today, is that we're going to pot these guys and then put it back on the windowsill, and then slowly climatize it for outside. You could put it in a pot and put it outside in a shady area, and that should do perfectly well. Put put them in some soil. Make sure you water it very well. Put it outside to climatize, but in a shady area, and then slowly introduce it to the sun. Put this in, just make sure that they are nicely in here. That just literally made yourself 3 new rosemary plants. Okay, there you go. I have 2 rooted rosemary cuttings in there, got 1 in there, and all I have to do is water them nicely. Okay, I am leaving these rosemary outside to climatize. I've got them in an area where it's shady and they won't get burnt in that. Once I know that the roots are actually well established in the soil, I can then move it out to where the other rosemaries are and they can get some sun. But for right now, they stay in a shady place in a pot. Make sure it's well drained soil. Make sure you water it nicely, because you got to remember it comes from the water. It's been in water for about a week or 2, or sometimes a month, depending on the season, and then you stick it into soil, and so it still needs that water. So just make sure that you water it very well, and that it is outside to climatize. So that is a wrap, and it's that easy. So I urge you guys to try it out and leave a comment below and tell me what herbs you are wanting to actually propagate and make more of, and what you are planning to do with it. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe, it means the world to us, and hit that notification button so that you don't miss out on any more content. Until then, we will see you in the garden.